Hi everyone, Amanda here from the Archer and Olive Ambassador team, and in this video I'm going to show you how I use mixed media in my journals. I like to put my journals to work, I paint heavy, I layer, I use my supplies to the max, and my Archer and Olive journals hold up really well, they get the job done. A question I get asked all the time is how I keep my pages from sticking together, so in this video I'm going to give you some tips on how to prep and seal your pages so that you can get the most out of your journaling experience. Make sure to take a look at the blog post with this video and subscribe to Archer and Olive for more tips and tutorials. Let's get right into it. For supplies, one of the most important things that you're going to need is a journal. In this case, when it comes to your pages and having paint stick together, having a journal that can hold paint is very important. If you go with a journal that's a bit cheaper, a bit more flimsy, your pages will not hold paint like you need them to, and that's how you get problems. Using an Archer and Olive journal, they have a higher GSM, and a higher GSM can really help with the longevity and the structure of your pages. The journal you are seeing here is an A5 journal. It's 160 GSM and it's blank, and I'm also using a smaller A6 one that is dotted. But basically, look for a journal with a higher GSM and has thicker pages. That way it will hold your mixed media a lot better compared to using something like a thin page. But basically, look for a journal with a higher GSM and thicker pages so that it can hold your paint well. Some other supplies you might want to use is paints. I like to use acrylics and watercolors, sometimes gouache, along with crayons and oil pastels, acrylographs, paint pens, papers, and whatever you have handy. So the first thing that you need to do is create something. Make sure you don't hold back, don't be afraid. Archer and Olive journals hold up really well. They are ready for whatever you have to throw at them. And now this brings me to my first tip for you to prevent your pages from sticking together, called interleaving pages. Basically, you just stick a piece of paper in between your pages so that it creates a barrier for the pages to not stick to each other. It's very simple, it's kind of the easiest one to do. You can use things like scrap papers, wax, or parchment paperwork as well. And this is the technique that I've used the most throughout my years of art journaling. I tend to just collect my scrap papers, and then whenever I need them for my journals, I'll take them out and stick them in. I also use them kind of for prepping my pages. If I'm putting down a layer of gesso or some white paint, I'll use that paper to kind of clean my brushes, and then later on when I'm sealing the page or I just need a barrier, I'll use the scrap papers and stick them in the journal. I am very much a person that wants to reuse everything as much as I can. I don't like trying to create too much waste, so whenever I'm able to, I'll use my scrap papers as much as I can. When you're doing a page like this with oil pastels, it can be great to use a sealant. Here I'm using some hairspray. It's very cheap hairspray, it does not matter what kind of hairspray that you use, but this is a great way to keep your oil pastels in place. You truly don't need a lot. I'm kind of doing too much here, just showing you for the sake of this video, but you really just only need like light layers and just let everything completely dry before closing the book. You can also use things like matte mediums like Mod Podge as well. Just be careful what materials you are using, because if you use something that is water soluble, for example, the medium will reactivate and that will ruin your page, and you don't want to mess up all the beautiful work that you've done. So just make sure that you know what materials you're using before you use the sealants. When working with these art journals, when you're using kind of a lot of paint, one thing I've noticed is that if you do something like this page, for example, where on the left I'm using a lot of paint and on the right I'm using a lot of paint, they will stick together. So sometimes it's strategy. If you really don't want a paint to stick together, you kind of have to plan out where you want your pages to go. You might want to not do heavy painting on both pages, because that's kind of a recipe for disaster. As much sealing as you can do, sometimes things happen and they just stick together. So if a painting on a page really matters to you, I would recommend not doing another heavy painting beside it. I know I talk a lot about being spontaneous in your work, because I like to do that, but sometimes little things like planning out where your pages are going to go can really help just on the longevity of your pages. So if that really matters to you, make sure you do some prep beforehand. The last sealant that I'm using here, it's called Varnish. I picked this one up at Walmart, and these do make your pages look glossy, so if that does matter to you, just be aware of that. But sealant like this is kind of the best layer of defense. I would honestly do this and then plus an interleaving page, and that's kind of like full protection. If your pages still stick together after all of that, then it was just meant to stick together. There's really nothing you can do, but you can see here they do look a little bit glossy when I hold them up. I'm not too worried about that, but if that is something that bothers you, just letting you know. Here is an example of sometimes you can't just help it with the pages bleeding through. I'm using alcohol markers on this page, and obviously we all know these will bleed through unless you use very, very thick paper. And I was just playing around in my sketchbook because I knew that this was going to happen, so it's okay. But I'm going to show you just how to cover up a page nice and quick so that you can just move on and you don't have to worry too much about it. So I have my wonderful page here. I think it looks very nice, but of course when you flip the page, it bleeds through incredibly, but that's okay. We don't have to worry too much about it. The first thing you could honestly do is just take a glue stick and you could glue the two pages together so that it's out of sight, out of mind. You don't have to worry about it anymore, but I wanted to kind of preserve the extra page and do something more with it. So what I'm gonna do is look through all of the wonderful papers that I have. I have some nice collage books by Archer and Olive. I also have a bunch of scrap papers. I'm just gonna kind of see what fits nicely on the page and where I want to go with it. A lot of the times when you're doing pages like this, you kind of have to work with it as you go and see where the inspiration comes. I usually like to come back to these pages after a couple of days, and when I have more ideas and things that I want to do, and then usually fill things in here. I had found this really nice piece of scrap paper and I wanted to add it into this journal. And as things kept going and things kept flowing, I just kind of decided where I wanted to go with it. A lot of the times with an art journal or a sketchbook, you need to remember that you're just there to create something and to learn and have fun. If things are not perfect or super aesthetic, that is completely okay. Nothing will last forever with these journals, so sometimes you just gotta embrace that you're gonna have pages that look like this, that look a little bit weird, look a little bit off, that they're not perfect, and that's completely okay. I know this video is me giving you tips on how to make sure your pages look clean and look kind of precise or perfect, but also just remember that it is completely okay if your pages get wrecked, if the pages stick together, if they rip. That is sometimes the best part of the pages because it reminds you that you have made something and your art is fallible. Things will have mistakes and fall apart, but that is part of the joy of creating. Hopefully this video can just give you some tips on how to preserve things, but also just a reminder to not be afraid to use paint in your journals and to use it heavily. Painting is so fun and they do hold up really great in these journals. I hope you found some inspiration here for your own journaling. Once again, make sure you are subscribed to the Archer and Olive channel for more tips and tutorials. Thanks for watching and happy journaling.